Hey, what's up guys? This is TBone here. So this is the first episode where I will be doing a ranking of all the cards within a season in Legendary Game Heroes, and we're going to get started with a high tide season. Since we're already on the last event of the season here, this is a perfect time to do it. And also it'll hopefully help you answer the question of what you can do with the leftover seasonal coins that's about to expire and which cards should you get. Right, that's a lot of people have asked me this question, like which one should they go after, and oftentimes I would say, well, it depends on your situation and it really sort of depends on what you prefer to do. But what I think would be helpful here is if I also give a breakdown of what I think would be sort of like the top choices for me and the reasons why. Hopefully this can also help you make that decision. So we're also going to be be talking about this in a couple of different ways. So you can see here I have all of the information stored in a Google Doc. I'll have the link in the description so you can access it and view it. I will be doing this for all the seasons from now on. I think is a good idea to talk about each of the seasons as a summary at the end of it. So you'll see this being used pretty often. I'm also going to show you another website I've been using, which I think is really, really cool. This is done by, and I've shown this before, this is done by player Darius Z, and it's a search engine for the cards in the game, and there's a lot of different options here, and he's done a lot of really good work to put all of the card art in here. It's pretty up to date, except it hasn't been updated with the current event yet since the event just started. But I find this really useful, and I'll be going back and forth between the two as I go through this ranking here. So before we get started here, why I split into Ultimate Form and Master Collection card is because I think that if you have a choice, you should always forge an Ultimate Form over just forging a random card on its own. I think that you're going to get much better utility out of it, and you're going to have a much better, easier time to really sort of do what you need to, what you like to do if you can get the full team. You should always go after that as the first option. So I would say any of these five would probably be slightly better than just a card on its own. So that's my personal preference, but I think that that is entirely up to you on what you like to do. So we'll start with the Ultimate Form here, and coming in at number 1 is actually going to be the Dark Commander deck, the Glorious Golems, and I'm going to talk about the reasons why afterwards, but I'm just going to give you the ranking. Followed by the Earth Slayer deck, the Verdant Druids. Number 3 for me actually is the Bonafide Brawlers, and that's going to be interesting. I'll definitely be talking about that a little bit. Coming in at number 4 is Paragons of Passion. And then finally, number 5 here is Auspicious Defenders. Now, why did I go through it this way? Well, mostly it has to do with just kind of like how I feel that the team can do overall, and just like, how successful it is, how easy it is to use. So if we take a look at the first one, and that is going to be the first on the list here, and that is Glorious Golems. If you take a look, this is the deck that we all talk about as the best deck for guild versus guild fights. It is, it's one that can take out any affinity, and it's really great in the event, sort of like wave fights. And if you take a look here, it has good passive skills. So a lot of the criteria I also place highly for these rankings is also whether or not the passive ability is there and how easy it is to use. So this card creates 4 Power Gem 4s on its own, and it also creates passively additional 5 Power Gems and doubles if you're supercharged, and also creates Power Gems whenever it attacks. So basically it's a card that will really create a lot of power gems for you. So this is the sort of the power generator. And as a team, when you have the full team here, you will also have the ultra rare card, which then will give you the immunity and everything. So as a full team with the Ultimate Form, this is by far the best one you can get. Now, Verdant Druids is number 2 on the list here. So for me, the reason why this is number 2 is because it is also another really, really strong guild versus guild deck. And it's also a nuke deck that has the ability to create lots of power gems, and in fact it has the ability to fill up the board every single turn. The only thing is, in order to get to that point, you need to have multiple ultra rare cards. So this deck as a full team by itself would be one ultimate form and one ultra rare and one master collection card. It's good, but it won't be as good as if you had 2, 3, or 4 even ultra rare cards in your deck. And because of the high requirement, that's why I placed a number 2. Because if you're looking to forge an ultimate form, it's going to be good, but it won't be quite as powerful as you would expect from what other people have been talking about because of the fact that you don't have multiple ultra rare cards. Now, for the deck that comes in number 3, that's actually going to be the event that is currently on right now. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the game itself. So this is the Bonafide Brawlers. And the reason why I put it in number 3 is because it's a deck, it's a card that does have a lot of versatility, and it can work really, really well along with the past Fire Commander deck, a Commander card, and that is it's actually right here with a Circuit Break Hilaria. So Circuit Break Hilaria can boost your attack by 200, but then if you get 8 or more power gems, it goes up to 2000%. And so it will really boost your damage here, and couple that with 9,000, sort of like, the 900% damage boost from the killer bonus, you're able to deal a lot of damage each time this combination is in play. It does create 6 power gems on its own, and so it also has ability to create multiple power gems as long as your intensity is increased. So as far as the ultimate form skill, to me that comes in number 3. Now for number 4 and number 5, remember it is going to be Paragons of Passion and also Auspicious Defenders. So for Paragons of Passion, the reason why it came in number 4 for me is because this card actually does a lot. So this, like, we know that as a team is a little bit weaker. We've seen it. It wasn't able to get 500% overkill in the bosses, but it still did really, I think it's, as a card, it actually does quite well because of all of the things it does, right? So it can heal, and it also gives you, a killer attack boost. It also spawns power gems, and then it will passively create power gems, but its passive ability is limited by the fact that it requires to have at least 3 stacks of triple love. That means you need to have 3 cards from the deck. But if you have the ultimate form, you will have those 3. And so you could still mix those 3 cards in, and you can have other cards that can sort of help it out. And I think that it could be a strong deck overall. And because of the different abilities that you can activate, it is interesting. But I think that it's really the passive abilities with the 3, sort of like it's like a double-edged sword. I think the passive abilities here really help it. But because it has a 3 requirement, it's a little bit limiting. And that's why for me, it came in at number 4. Now, finally, the number 5 ultimate form for me is Auspicious Defenders. This is the first deck really in post Generation 3 in Fire Slayers for the season, and it's a little bit weaker in comparison to the rest of the ultimate forms. So it creates 4 power gem 2s, and it doesn't really have a passive ability other than increasing the killer intensity. And what it does is it also increases the chaotic killer attack by a certain percentage, but it's pretty slow. In terms of its starting amount is only at 30%, whereas if you compare it to other cards, it already goes at hundreds, and it has ability to go to thousands even right away. And so for me, I think that this deck is a little bit sort of a lackluster in comparison to the other ultimate forms, and that's why for me, it comes in number 5. All right, and now we're going to go through the Master Collection card and the Ultra Rare cards here. And for completeness, I will talk through all of them, but I think that the first 4 here really are going to be your top choices, and you're less likely to want to go for the other ones unless it's your preference. And I would even argue that in some cases, you might think that getting one of these top cards is preferable to getting, let's say, the full Ultimate Form, like number 5 spot. But again, it's preference. I still think that having an Ultimate Form is slightly better, but it's entirely up to you. So coming in at number 1, no surprise here, is from the Dark Commander deck, and this one is actually going to be the ultra rare card the high performance unit area. And the reason why I placed it number one is because it gives you immunity, and it cleanses the entire team except for Toxin, and it gives you the power gems every time you attack. So it has, a little bit of everything, but it works so well in all the other cards. You can place it anywhere, and the immunity card that has only a 3-turn cooldown is really strong. And I think that this is something that can be used, in any deck really, so that it has high utility, and that's why for me it's in the number one spot. Now for number two, it's actually a close one for me. It was number two and number three, but it's Earth Making You, the Earth Slayer deck. And now this is another ultra rare card as well. And for me, it's really just the fact that you can use it every single turn. So you can give it an attack boost, and it has 6 power gems that can create every single turn. So its passive ability is really strong. 6 power gems on every single turn, and we can take a look at the details here as to what power gems they actually create here. So this is the making you right here, and it will actually create 6 power gem 3s every single turn as long as you have a power gem on the board, and it also will increase the killer the attack by 3% for every 10 immortal killer bonus. Now for me that's a little bit slow just in comparison to like some of the other cards there, but again for me it's less about the attack boost but more just the passive ability. Speaking of passive ability, what comes in number 3 here is Sparrows the Goliath. Again, like I said, this is really close for me, but it's a power gem spawner. So on its own, it'll create 5 power gems, and then every 3 turns, it will create another 5 power gems as well. And so if you look at sort of like, every 3 turns, you basically will have the ability to create power gem 3s. Now these are power gem 3s that it creates. And so it's, another really good passive gem spawner that makes it a great card for a turn 1 deck. So any cards that have the ability to create power gem passively, you should be using that in any situation. And so that's why for me, this is a number 3. Number 4 here, Great Master Lao Shu, is actually an interesting one because the Master Collection card has abilities that the Ultimate Form doesn't. And that is, it creates 4 power gems every 4 turns, and it also will cleanse, although it doesn't cleanse the entire team, and it also has this nuke damage ability that we've seen before in such cases as like, Relentless Scholars, as well as the Despots of Despair, for example. They all have this kind of nuke damage, and it actually is something that can work really well in a lot of situations. But the fact is, it has really good passive ability because it will actually give you 4 power gem. It's power gem 2s, it's not power gem 3s or 4s. It's a little bit lower, but it's still a good passive power gem spawner. And that is the reason why, for me, it actually came in number 4. In fact, it came in a little bit higher than Prophetess Tenera, which is a pure nuke card, right? So Prophetess Tenera is a card that can really deal a lot of damage, but it will actually take a while. It takes some time for you to build up intensity in order for the damage to really be high. And so that's why for me, I think that it's not quite as high here. It doesn't have any other passive abilities to create gems or anything like that. But overall, I think that it is a good card that you can use in Guild vs. Guild, for example, because it can nuke down really fast every single turn. So it does have a 1-turn cooldown, which makes it a desirable card in Guild vs. Guild or wave situations. Now, starting from, like 6th place and onwards, like I said, it's unlikely that you're going to want to spend your coins on getting just one of these cards, because these are cards that aren't really all that great on their own, although I think that there's still good utility. So for example, Queen of the Scene, which is the ultra rare card of this event, I think that it actually is a preferable card to the Master Collection card, which comes in number 7. And so if you take a look at Queen of the Scene here, what it does is it can heal for 10,000%, which actually is a really good heal. So like as a healer card, it can fully heal your team, which is really nice. And it does create 4 power gem 4, so it's still a power gem spawner, and the more intensity you have, the more power gems it can create. And so overall, I think that it actually is pretty good. Like in fact, like number 5 and number 6 here, they're these two are kind of close. But what's really nice about this particular card is that if you also have Circuit Break Hilaria, which actually gives you the ability, which actually gives you attack boost by 200, but then multiply that by 10, so up to 2000 if you have 8 power gems or more, you can also boost up this card really, really well. And so it depends on the situation, but I would say you wouldn't really want to just get this card for that purpose, because you're losing out on some of the other utilities that we talked about in the number 1, 2, and 3 spots. Number 7 here is Street Racing Frankie, which is the Master Collection card. So this Master Collection card has the similar skills in that it will actually give you it'll also give you power gems. If you look at the ability here, it will still create 4 power gems just like the ultra rare card, and it does include, depend on the intensity. But the thing that's different about this card than the ultra rare card, Queen of the Scene, is that its attack boost is really low. 140% isn't really much. So I prefer the heal in this case. And so that's why for me, I place Queen of the Scene higher than Street Racing Frankie. Now number 8, 9, and 10. Unfortunately, Venerable Hong for me just isn't a really great card. It is a, when you activate it, it will create Power Gem 2s, and it also increases the attack of the Chaotic Killers. But it does it at a very slow pace, 30% plus 3% for every 10 intensity. It's just really slow for me. And so for me, I think that it's really sort of below all the other cards. But it's still better than, unfortunately, the 2 cards here from the Light Commander event. Soldier of Love and Aphrodite. For me, these 2 on their own are at the bottom of the list for me, because even though they have, for example, Soldier of Love has stackable attack boost. You can stack it. It can create power gens, but only if you can get 3 stacks of triple love. So that means you need to have 3 cards. On its own, it doesn't do very well, and you're losing out on the Ultimate Form's ability to basically do everything. So like you're not getting a lot of output from this. And so if you were to get just a single card, I would not get either of these 2. The intensity requirement is way too high at 200 intensity, and it's just, the passive ability is too restrictive. It doesn't really work well with sort of on its own, right? If you have the Ultimate Form, at least it works well with those 3 cards, Master Collection card and Ultra Rare and Ultimate Form. It actually works well. By itself, though, it is not a card that you want to spend your coins on. Okay, and so that is why that is basically the ranking here. So to me, if you wanted to get just 1 card, definitely go with the Dark Commander, and then it's going to be a sort of, but if you already have that, then it's going to be a, if you already have that card, then you should definitely be getting the other one, and that is going to give you the Ultimate Form. So that's how you should think about it. But then if you are sort of trying to decide which of these 3 to go with, I would say it's completely your preference on how it plays out. But any of these 3, I would say would be an easy choice that you wouldn't regret. Okay, and so hopefully this has been helpful for you. Let me know what you think. Again, I'm going to have the links to both my Google Doc as well as this website here in the description, so you can access it yourself. I'm going to be doing this every season, so that you should expect this in 5 weeks as well. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you'd like to see differently. And also, of course, let me know if you have different opinions on which card you think is the best. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.